I started to learn my second language, English, from grade 7 in middle school. I met my English teacher, Miss Lai, which I still feel grateful till now. At that time, English lesson was my favorite course. I remembered she used some English songs to teach us numbers, like Indian Boys, or modified some small songs to teach us colors, fruits, etc. every week. After a while, except the grammatic use, we started to do role play regarding to some topics we learned each week, or made short presentations about the interesting stories we read from some storybooks or on TV. When we grew to grade 9, she gave us some written tasks about very small topics. She required us to listen to the tape every day and gave us some comprehension questions according to the reading. Even though this is greatly common right now, but at my time, 20 years ago in China, traditional English teaching was still deeply influenced by behaviorist theory. The teachers spoke most of the time during the lesson and asked the students to do the repetition to memorize the usage, or to repeat after our English teachers, or to copy the spelling of a word many times as a basic of our assignment. It was not surprising that our class did very great average grades in every test the school held in middle term or final term, because most of our classmates liked English course at that time. It was active and interesting. However, when I moved to the high school, we spent most of the time to learn more about the reading comprehension and grammatical use of the language structure. I felt it bored for some time and did not prefer English as much as I got started. I did more deliberate learning after I went to university by reading English novels and participated in English ESL programs. As Pauline Biolek noted that, whether we learn our native language or the second language, learning is a slow or gradual growing process day by day. We all have some similar stages to go through from the silence period to high advanced level little by little. Starting from the pre-production stage, we cannot make any word or can only do some bubbling to imitate some phonetic sounds. After several months, we can move to some simple words and answer yes or no questions. Learning after 1 to 3 years, we jump to speech emergency to make some simple sentences. Then we can get to intermediate and advanced fluency if we continue to learn from 3 to 10 years. Additionally, according to Lightbrown and Spada, explained about the cognitive perspective, first language acquisition and second language acquisition drawing on the same process of perception, memory, categorization, and generalization. The difference lies in the circumstances of learning as well as in what the learners already know about language and how that prior knowledge shapes their perception of the new language. In my perspective, this means that the biggest difference between the first language and second language learning is the language learning environment. We do not have language receptive input as much as the native language speakers. It's worth noting that the first language learners have spent thousands of hours interacting via variety of language input, including participating and eavesdropping in the conversations as well as reading and watching TV, whereas the second language learners study more from classroom teaching, normally several hours a week. Besides, what we understand in our first language can influence our second language learning. For example, we often use some low-frequency words such as realization, temperated, etc., which our native language teachers told us he never uses. Or sometimes we create some Chinglish such as people mountain, people sea to explain that a great number of people everywhere. This is influenced by our first language. Based on what we have learned about the second language acquisition knowledge and my own language learning experience, if I teach English as a second language learner, I strongly agree that vocabulary will be the key parts at all language learning stages. For the first beginners, I would like to provide the multimodal teaching resources to ask the students to see some pictures or short clips with audio resources to help them to memorize the pronunciation of the vocabulary as well as the realistic meaning of it. It will also prefer my students to use foldable scrap or interactive notebook to help them to match the words to the paste pictures. They can make study buddies to do more games to match the words with its meaning. Regarding to the early production learners, I would like to give them some pictures or flashcards and ask them to make yes or no questions, or give them wordless books to read quietly to help them develop their reading behaviors. I would also like to give them some listening activities and let them take part in whole class activities. Then to ask them some WH questions to do some scaffolding. As for speech emergency level students, I can use storybooks supported with pictures to do more incorporating dialogues with their peers or me, to prepare them some leveled books and short narratives for scaffolding. As for the intermediate or advanced level of students, I think we should let the students expose as much as they could beyond of their repertoire. We can provide them rich non-fiction and texts and ask them to do assignments, to do some research. We can help by giving them quick feedback on their learning process.